Hi everybody, Dave here in the workshop. We've got a request video today. Uh, this is on the Shakespeare Microlight series. I put up one of my typical, 15-20 second videos about everything that comes through the shop, and this one has garnered multiple requests for a follow-up video on how to service it. And um, after looking at it again, I didn't think twice about it when I did the service on it, but I can see how it could be a little confusing and people not sure what to do. And there are some things you should do and some things you shouldn't do when you service this. So we're going to get right into it and take a good close-up look, and hopefully that'll satisfy some of the other folks that looked at the original video and wanted to follow up. All right, let's have a look. All right, let's begin. One of the things I noticed about this reel is I believe Shakespeare is also making some trade reels on a consignment basis for some other folks as well. This is a little discovery reel that I actually have two of these. It's a D111, and it's very similar in size and construction and some of the features on it. So I suspect Shakespeare makes this one as well. So the point is, you may find that there are other reels out there that have the same construction as this one. And if you happen to have one of those, this may apply to those as well. So let's just dig right into it. And the first thing we're going to do is when I finish servicing a reel, I always put a little washer on the end so that the line doesn't get dragged into inside the spin caster cover, and that's always a good step to take. Probably first thing to do with almost any reel like this is pull the handle, and I'll show you some close-ups when we get to the appropriate point in something is necessary to point out. This is a fairly straightforward handle removal, not much to see here, but of course you may find that perhaps the knob needs a little oiling, so don't be afraid to put a drop of oil down in there. Next step, we'll pull out a little bit of line, and then we're going to remove the spool cover, lefty-loosey rotation. That exposes your line, the winder, as well as the spool. And so now we have probably where a lot of people are getting stuck. And if you look at this reel carefully, you'll see that the back cover starts to pull away. So let me show you. We'll take a look at that. So here, this black plastic piece is separate from the housing cover, and you can see it starts to move there. But on this side, it's not open, it's captured. And so you might think, well, how am I going to get that off? And there is a trick to this. In this case, this trick comes in handy a couple times, both during disassembly and reassembly. And what you need to do is you need to physically, you can use the push button at this time, but then reach in here and pull out the winder. Okay, it's spring loaded, it'll pop back, but you have to pull that out and then use your fingers to keep it out. So now I've got the winder out and I've got my hand grip here. What this allows you to do is pivot the gray plastic piece and gives you enough room to pull this lip over this black plastic. That is the key to removing this cover. So you see, we'll get that pulled out. It's a little tricky, and if you don't do this correctly, you will break it. It'll break right in here, and then you're not going anywhere with it, to be honest with you, because it's going to be toast. So we pull out, and there it is. So you have to get enough pivot on it so it can lift up over this lip. And once you do that, you're good. Then you can let this back in. Okay, that's the key. The key is pull that spool out, because what it's really doing, it's giving you room to maneuver inside here. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to set this down, and we'll show you the couple things that you can do. If in the process of doing this, the button happens to break off, I won't say the word break because that means you'll have a different problem, but there's a press fit on the plastic button into the rear housing, and so just snap that back into place. If this is silted up or has a little grit in or dirt in there, just go ahead and lubricate that so that that button swings freely. And so be careful with this, because this piece is the one that you're likely to break. All right, next step. On most spin casters, what you would do is you would rotate, you would hold this steady, and you may actually have to reattach the handle to do this. But on most spin casters, you would hold the handle in your hand, get a firm grip, and you would rotate the winder. And you can see that this one is threaded. There's a threaded, this threaded main shaft comes through the winder. However, this is an extruded hole and it's very delicate. So do not remove the winder from the main shaft on this. That's where you may run into trouble if you do. So I'm going to suggest doing all the rest of the service without taking the winder off. If you need to access that area down in there to clean it, go ahead and do that. Just, again, use your fingers. You can stick something in here to hold it open. Spray your WD-40. If you need to grease it or oil it, go ahead and do that. But don't take off the winder. All right. On this side, so I've already pulled the handle. Let me put that back. On this side, you may have a couple things you need to check. The first is right here, the anti-reverse pawl. This is another case where this reel is going to be different than other reels. Other reels, you may want to pull the main shaft that's attached to the winder. You may want to just pull it right out, and there's ways you can do that. And you may want to pull the handle shaft, which is attached to the main gear. You may want to pull that out. Don't try to do that. There's too much plastic here. What you should do instead is look down in this area if it's gummed up or needs service. Again, use your WD-40 to dissolve any grease that's hardened up in there, flush out any dirt or sand, and then just go after it with your typical reel oil or some grease. When it's metal on metal, I use grease. If it's, in this case, metal on plastic, I'll just put a drop of oil in there. So again, a close-up here, you can see the pawl. This is the little anti-reverse pawl. That has to move freely. If that's not moving freely when that main gear is rotating, then you have a problem there as well. So you may need to get right in this crack right here. I'm moving this back and forth. That's got to move freely like that. Don't try to take it out. Leave it in there. And just go ahead and flush that area, and then go ahead and re-oil it, and then re-grease where the pawl is catching on the back side of the main gear where the anti-reverse is. Just try to show those teeth a little better. Go ahead and make sure that's greased up. And as long as it's moving freely, it's going to fall back into position and the pawl will catch in those gears, or in those teeth. On this side, again, do not try to take the main shaft out. If the shaft is not easily moving up and down and returning from the spring, you've got to get in here and you've got to clear all the teeth on the pinion gear and all the teeth on the main gear. You got to clean all that out. Again, flush with the solvent and then re-grease, and make sure that that main gear, the pinion shaft with the winder, make sure that spring is returning it correctly. Make sure that's showing up on the video. It looks like it is. As long as that's returning smoothly, go ahead and grease up this area. Make sure you're using fishing reel grease. Don't use Vaseline. And put some grease on those teeth, and then make sure you get that part of the operation good. Again, do not take off the winder. You may find this is the little winding button. This is the piece that catches the line when it's coming around. And when you push the button in on the reel, you can see that little pin. Make sure I can get you a little close up of that. There's the pin. When you push the button, you see the pin drops away. That's what lets you cast. And then as this reel gets wound, the pin pops back out, grabs your line, and pulls it in. Make sure that's free. If that's not free, go through this hole right here and make sure that you get good movement on this pin up and down. Clean this hole. Make sure that's flushed out with WD-40. Then go ahead and lubricate that with some fishing reel oil. That's all there is to it. However, the next trick is during reassembly, what you do have to do, and the drag is just a little pressure piece that goes on the back side of the spool. Not a lot to that. Nothing that you really need to overly concern yourself with there. And now what I've done is I've wound the line around the main shaft a couple times. Let me make sure I get that fixed. All right, that's better. Just messing around with it. Don't want to do that. So now it's time to put the rear housing back on. You've done all your service. Again, pull back. Hold with your fingers. Pull that winder back as if you're depressing the main shaft. And this is really important because you're going to need the and you'll see how that button is swinging. You got to make sure that button is in the out position and with no shaft in the way because you're pulling with your fingers. Now what you can do is you start by getting this lip back up over this side again. So as long as that lip is up over that side, it's already in the position where it needs to be. Sorry, I knocked the camera there. Now make sure your button is down, and if you then just rotate back into position. You hear that click? That's all there is to it. All right. Fairly straightforward. Now just pull your excess line out of the way, and we're going to put the spool cover back on. You don't have to. This is one of the benefits, so you can do this whole thing with the line still attached. You don't have to remove all the line and reinstall it. So I've got the washer on the end of my line. The line is already run through the spool cover. Just come back here. Make sure you get your threads to align. And remember, all the threads are on the rear housing. The threads are not on the main body. They're on the rear housing. So make sure you get that. Spin it on until it's tight. It says Micro Series right on the top. Then you know you're lined up correctly. We take our handle. We put our handle back on. Our handle nut. We'll use a small needle nose. Make sure that's tight. You can use a socket. It's up to you. We have tension on our line. We wind it back in. Button press. So now you're in free spool. There it is. There's the free spool. Comes out. You do your rotation of the handle, and then that little pin grabs your line and starts pulling it right in. That's all there is to it. If you have any questions about what we've done here, or if you want to see something different, drop a comment below. Meanwhile, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is not a typical Zebco Spincaster, all right? And that's really the difference. Perhaps a lot of people are very used to the Zebco style And in the Zebco style, all the things that I said don't do, you can do on a Zebco. It just so happens on this Shakespeare microlight, they didn't, micro series, excuse me, they didn't let you do everything that you might otherwise do on a Zebco. And that probably causes some confusion. And the parts are, especially this rear gray silver rear housing, it's a strange molded piece, strange shape, and it's thin. So you will break it if you force it too hard. And the key is pull that, pull the winder out and hold it out with your fingers while you pivot the cover, whether it's removal or installation. That's the key step. Thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to New to You Fishing.